Lepo pozdravljeni. Če dovolite, bi začeli z današnjim programom. If you don't mind, we would like to start. Lepo pozdravljeni na današnji delavnici, ki je namenjena predstavitvi posebnega finančnega inštrumenta v okviru LIFE programa za financiranje ukrepov ohranjanja biodiverzitete in pa promocije projektov prilagajanja podnebnim spremembam. Uvodoma bi se želela predstaviti, za tiste, ki se ne poznamo. Moje ime je Nives Nared, prihajam iz Ministrstva za okolje, oddelka za podnebne spremembe in sem se zadnjih 10-15 let ukvarjala s politiko ukrepov zmanjšanja emisij toplogrednih plinov in sem se pridružila potem ekipi za spremljanje LIFE programa leta 2013, ko je LIFE program začel financirati ukrepe blaženja in prilagajanja podnebnim spremembam. Z mano danes tu je še nekaj članov naše tako imenovane LIFE ekipe. Kot ste verjetno že seznanjeni, ima ministrstvo zdaj že 2 leti vodi projekt LIFE Capacity Building. Znotraj tega imamo 6 novih kolegov zaposlenih. Danes so z nami Špela Žohar, ki ste jo spoznali že na registraciji in ki je zdaj tudi fotoreporter. Potem je z nami Dejan Zupanc, vodja projekta. Potem je z nami Marjetka Šemrl-Dos-Rejs, zadolžena za komunikacijske aktivnosti in pa tudi vprašanja projektov na področju okolja. Potem je z nami Maja Cipot, v okviru projekta zadolžena za projekte z področja ohranjanja narave, in pa Tatjana Orhini-Valjavec, zadolžena v okviru projekta za projekte z področja okolja. Ostali člani so žal danes zasedeni z drugimi obveznostmi, tako da se nam niso mogli pridružiti. Tema današnje delavnice je predstavitev tega mehanizma, ki pravzaprav predstavlja nek presedan v tradicionalnem financiranju projektov, ki jih je financiral LIFE program. V smislu, da ne gre za nepovratna sredstva, ampak za povratna sredstva. Zdaj, kako, zakaj, za kakšne projekte, pod kakšnimi pogoji, kako pridobiti ta sredstva, bodo nam predstavili naši današnji gostje. Zelo nas veseli, da so z nami gospa Jelena Miloš iz Evropske komisije, iz direktorata za klimatske ukrepe, podnebne ukrepe, potem gospa Stefanie Lindenberg iz Evropske investicijske banke, ki nam bo iz prve roke povedala, kako pridobiti ta sredstva. Potem je z nami gospod Tanković iz Hrvatske banke za obnovo in razvoj, ki je že pridobila ta sredstva iz tega inštrumenta. V popoldanskem delu pa se nam bo pridružila kolegica Barbara Simonič, ki na Ministrstvu za okolje skrbi za politiko prilagajanja podnebnim spremembam. In pa potem v nadaljevanju želimo vam predstaviti tudi projekt, ki je že pridobil ta sredstva in se ukvarja z ukrepi prilagajanja podnebnim spremembam. Ker kot rečeno, smo želeli danes vam predstaviti ta inštrument, poleg tega pa tudi nekako vas navdušiti za projekte z področja prilagajanja podnebnim spremembam, ki hkrati nekako naslavljajo tudi probleme oziroma rešujejo probleme ohranjanja biodiverzitete in narave. So we are very pleased to welcome here today our guests from European Commission, from European Investment Bank, from Croatian Development Bank and from Mr. Attas from Spain, who would present us all the important aspects of National Capital Financing Facility, as well as some examples and experiences from projects addressing adaptation to climate change. I would like to apologize. I would speak in our own language, but we have the translation here, so everybody is free to speak English or Slovenian. Če še kdo ni vzel, zadaj so na voljo slušalke, gostje bojo govorili v angleščini, seveda pa lahko karkoli bo potem v razpravi vprašanja naslovite v slovenščini. So I would stop here and like to invite Ms. Miloš from the European Commission to speak about the framework of today's presentation. Thank you.
Yeah. Continue.
Samo dole idete.
Aha,
da.
Okay.
Samo še ena mogoče obvestilo. Današnja delavnica, tako kot mnogo katere, se snemajo, zato da si lahko potem kasneje ogledate še kdaj te predstavitve in pa da si jih lahko ogledajo tisti, ki danes se nam niso uspeli pridružiti. Tako da, če bi pa kdo imel kakšno težavo s tem, da je pač na sliki oziroma da je v predstavitvi, pa prosim, če se oglasite pri nas, pa bomo potem to ustrezno naslovili oziroma rešili. Tako da hvala.
Dobro jutro. Good morning. So, sorry, I will speak in English. First, I'd like to thank the Ministry of Environment for their continued interest in LIFE and especially NCFF. So thank you for organizing this workshop. First, just to introduce who I am. So I'm Jelena Miloš. I work in DG Climate Action. We, as you know, are working on reduction of emissions, so mitigation policies. But at the same time, there is a work ongoing for adapting to climate change, because we know that the effects of climate change are here and will only become stronger despite the mitigation efforts. So there's a little department in DG Climate Action working on this as well. I work on LIFE funding, especially LIFE climate action. So what I'd like to talk about today is first speak about the program itself, LIFE, just quickly, as well as what LIFE adaptation projects are, so the grants, and to give you context about the Natural Capital Financing Facility, which is a bit of a newcomer to the scene. It is a financing instrument, so it's not grants. That is in LIFE. It's a piloting instrument. And I will wrap up about saying a little bit about the future of LIFE program, because there is now talks about the next EU budget, so the one, the 2021 to 2027. So does LIFE continue? It does, no worries. But just to say what is happening there and what is the outlook for the future. So LIFE is really an only EU program that is exclusively dealing with environment and climate. It is 26 years old, so it's basically as old as I think Erasmus, one of the older EU programs. For climate action, it supports us in the adaptation and mitigation policies. So the 2030 Energy and Climate Framework and the adaptation policy, as well as implementing the Paris Agreement. Just historically, what happened with life, this is just, I'm going to. So, up until 2014, it was one program, so it was the Program for Environment. Since 2014, it has expanded to include climate action. It is a relatively, so it's 25% of the 3.5 billion euros that is set for life for the period, for the 7-year period from 14 to 20. So for the next 3 years, we have 344 million euros to spend on climate action grants and financing instruments. And when I speak about financing instruments, there are two under life. One we'll talk about today, it's the Natural Capital Financing Facility. Then, of course, there is also the Private Finance for Energy Efficiency. It is another program implemented also by the European Investment Bank. We won't touch on that today. Just to say that the co-financing rates of grants, for the climate action project, the grant projects, since 2014, they're slowly growing in number. There are about 90 plus projects that are dealing with climate change adaptation, mitigation, and governance and information. The co-financing rates are between 55% to 75%, depending on the type of the grant or the financial instrument. I just wanted to give a little bit of what's life, what the state of life is in Slovenia. Since '92, there have been about 40 projects financed, mostly in environment and nature. But some of those projects, of course, contributed to climate adaptation and mitigation. Since 2014, there is a few climate projects that are being implemented. I've selected 3, and I think they're the only ones so far. But I think the Slovenian colleagues, the LIFE team, are working on expanding this, and this is why we look forward to getting more proposals. Of course, the new call is open, and the deadline is in September. So let's hope that we'll grow the number. So these are the 3 projects. One is a governance project, helping to develop mid-term projections for greenhouse gas emissions in Slovenia. This Life Climate Path 2050. And then there is an adaptation project dealing with the climate change impacts on agriculture in the Vipava Valley. So there they are working on looking at scenarios, vulnerability scenarios, looking at needs for irrigation, piloting technology or piloting green windbreaks. It's not technology really, to protect the agricultural crops from wind. So that's a typical adaptation project in agriculture, where you have some pilot actions and some capacity building, so preparatory actions for adaptation. The last one is Life Sustain Huts. It's not a Slovenian beneficiary, it's not the lead beneficiary, but it's interesting. It's Slovenia is participating in it with a few other countries, Austria, Germany. So they're working on trying to make mountain huts in remote areas resilient to, trying to make the energy supply resilient. So using renewable energy sources to power these mountain huts. As I mentioned before, the Life Climate Action call for grants is open now. The deadline is in September. And there are 2 types of projects we are looking for. So the traditional projects, which are pilot, best practice, demonstration, and governance and information. And of course, the integrated projects, which are more large scale. and they are concerned with implementing actions and strategies in the field of climate at a larger scale. We, for the climate change adaptation, the traditional projects, we are one of the work areas, one of the priority work areas where adaptation, where we need adaptation projects is, of course, urban adaptation, because impacts of climate change are felt more intensely in urban areas. And so I've selected a few of the priorities or work areas that we're looking for. Of course, one is implementation of Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy Commitments. As I understand, in Slovenian municipalities, about 30 have signed up to the Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. But only a few are developing plans for 2030 in adaptation. So there's still some work to do. So we have life to help along this. As well as developing and deploying solutions, adaptation solutions. So this is trying to use nature-based solutions to address the impacts like heat waves or flooding. And as well technological solutions. So, for example, we have a project in Italy that is working on developing a new type of a roof tile that is supposed to help cool the buildings, and also, I mean, it's energy efficient. So we're also looking for this, not only developing and implementing plans, but what can we do? What are the technological solutions to adapt to climate change? And last but not least, we'd like to have some projects on human health and well-being. So working with the health sector, trying to address impacts like spread of climate-sensitive diseases, heat waves as well. So basically, just giving you the idea for life climate action for the adaptation call, there is about 21 million euro available for this year. So that's about 10 to 13 projects in total. And that's obviously not enough to meet the climate needs of all the countries. So this is why we have in the LIFE program the financial instruments, which are supposed to, in a way, leverage public, including EU funding and private funding, with private funding. So basically trying to get more for our money. And this is where the natural capital financing facility comes in. I think Stephanie from the bank will explain a little bit more in detail what the projects are. And we also have a colleague from the newly signed project with the Croatian Bank of Development and Reconstruction. So just to tell us more about what kind of projects the Natural Capital Financing Facility is funding. But moving along, I mean, I wanted to explain, we are also, for urban adaptation, these are some of the, I just put on a slide, some nature-based solutions that could be also as a LIFE project. So trying to do flood protection or heat, sort of heat protection as well, and giving an example that why nature-based solutions are effective. Basically, at a low cost, you can prevent a lot of damage. For example, in the city of Paris, in the 2016 floods, just because they renatured the riverbanks and they provided some alluvial forest, so forest around between the river and the bank, they prevented or reduced the damage, the flood damage by 1 meter. So that's a really good example of how nature-based solutions can protect from flooding. But we only have a few of those. So this is also where NCFF, so the Natural Capital Financing Facility, comes in. We're looking at expanding the number of these projects to prove the cost effectiveness of these. So for the NCFF, I'll refer to it in its acronym. We're looking for financing of projects. So these are loans and equity that apply nature-based solutions for adaptation, as well as have a positive impact on biodiversity. What is the rationale for establishing these financial instruments? Well, I just explained the grant money for adaptation, and it's the same in biodiversity, is limited. So we need to expand more. We need to have more funding, attract more funding for these areas. We also want to pilot projects like the nature-based solutions that can generate revenues or avoid losses. For adaptation, it's almost impossible to find a project that generates revenues. We also need to look at new models, so to say, okay, if we invest in this now, it will prevent this much damage from impact, from flooding, from heat waves in now and in the future. So it's basically more looking at how to avoid losses for climate adaptation. The pilot size that we're looking at about 9 to 12 projects from now until about 2020, and the setup is that the European Investment Bank provides 125 million up to 125 million euro of funding for loans and equity, while the EU funds, the EU Life funds, provide guarantees. So if a project fails, we provide the guarantees, and we provide technical assistance. And this is all implemented by the European Investment Bank. So I think Stephanie will mention more, but I wanted to just put up what are the project categories of the NCFF. So nature-based solutions to climate change adaptation, which I focused most in this presentation. Of course, there is projects that address sustainable agriculture, forestry, ecotourism, anything where you use and work with nature to develop projects and generate revenue, and biodiversity offsets. I will just mention a few words about what happens to life after 2020. The proposal for the new regulation for life, so this is a Commission proposal that needs to be then approved, but this proposal comes out tomorrow. And some of the main elements are that there's more funding, so we grow a little bit to 5.5 million, about 5.5 billion euros. There will be 2 sub-programs, so this continues, environment and climate action. For climate action, we have a new addition, so there will be a separate or standalone project on clean energy transition. And so the budget will increase too. So the climate action part, so including the clean energy transition, will be about 2 billion euros, which is an increase because right now we are at about 950 million. So we are growing, because there is this clean energy part added on. And for environment, there is more funding for nature and biodiversity, that's for sure, and circular economy. The emphasis will be on integrated projects, so these large projects that are implementing plans and strategies, and they also leverage funding from other funds. There is as well an effort to sort of grow life projects beyond. So life projects are supposed to be idea labs. So how do you grow these projects? How do you make them? How do you transfer these ideas? The aim would be from the next budget to make it easier for successful LIFE projects to be funded from regional funds. So this is this seal of quality seal of excellence, which will be a scheme that is being developed. I don't have any more details, but that would be one way to see that LIFE projects continue beyond their end through regional funds. And of course, the financial instruments, there is a new development, this new Invest EU fund, which is the continuation of EFSI, the European Fund, the Strategic Investment Fund now. And so all financial instruments will be implemented under this program, where climate and environment projects like NCFF could be implemented under the sustainable infrastructure window. But these are just initial proposals. Then I'm sure there will be some iterations, but this is what the proposal is for after 2020. So I think that's it for me. Thank you for the attention. If you like to continue with Stephanie or any questions, if I can take questions.
I'm just wondering because I saw that you presented that there are kind of more funds, but we know from the previous period that for some time there was a delay in accessibility. So do you foresee that delay in this next period as well, or?
Ideally not.
Yeah.
But there is always, I think, because there will be a new sub-program, so this clean energy transition. So this could be, I mean, it will take a little bit long and it will grow in size. So hopefully not, but I see that there will be more complex things to deal with, definitely, for life. Question? Okay.
My question is about this new financial mechanism. Is it necessary that we have, for example, an approved LIFE project and this is extra money, or it can be something different and financed from private money?
Oh, thanks. That's a good question. No, it is not necessary. So, I mean, it is nice. I mean,
yes,
that's the ideal case that we combine LIFE funding with loan funding, but it's not definitely not necessarily. Okay. They're two separate programs. Okay. Thanks.
Hi. We know while we were looking for the NCFF, we also saw this PF4EE, Private Finance for Energy Efficiency, which has different features, but also very interesting for us. But as we are not privately owned institution, we were not eligible for that. Do you feel that some features of those programs, such as risk-sharing things, because we finance those projects, could be seen in the next period after 2020?
You mean risk-sharing for?
Yeah, for institutions such as we are.
Public ones.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's possible. I have no idea. I mean, that's a good because you are from the
HBR.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if they are. I'm not a financial expert, but have you? Yeah.
Well, when we started, we will talk about this later. We wondered whether we can use this as well, but we were, because of the eligibility was only for the privately owned.
Yes.
We are publicly owned, but we also provide financing either directly or through the banks.
Yeah.
That would be very, very interesting because of this risk sharing.
For you, yeah.
Yeah, and in the end for the banks who could be involved as well.
No, I know for PF4E, so this funding for energy efficiency, they are commercial banks. But I'm not sure whether the colleagues have looked at expanding the eligibility to publicly owned banks or institutions. But
as a suggestion.
Good, thanks. I'll take it on board.
Thank you, Jelena.